Transformation is a tool that Microsoft released with 2009 and until 2009 R2, and it's used for moving the application from forms to pages. It also has some menu suite options and other things like that one. The Mergetool has a fully integrated version of that one actually. Some tools to both make it consistent, but also there is a complete transformation tool in here. It's the same code that Microsoft released, it's just moved to a different range, and it has been cleaned up. There's been a lot of things done to it to actually have it working in a way that it matches the Mergetool and what we consider the general application. So the first thing to do is to import the data that comes from Microsoft, and I have a file here where it actually has a transformation tool in here. So I'm going to extract these files. I'll just extract them here, and then I move that folder up to in here. So this one is all the XML files, so the 5 XML files coming from Microsoft, including the tool actually. So the first thing would be to go set up the transformation setup in here. And my path would be where I just put it, and I'll use the same one for export in here. And then I will import the different file types, and inside my transformation tool I have this TIFF editor folder, and I have the form to page type mapping. So that's the first thing that needs to be imported to set it up. Secondly, all the data coming from Microsoft needs to be imported, and this one basically populates all the table. And there's a couple more settings in here. I can have a different command, for example, for actually executing my transformation, and I normally do that one in here. So that means I can actually have a few things extra. So I'll go in here and create a new one. I'll execute.bat. Edit, and the first thing I want to do is that I'm actually getting to the right location, and then the input to this one is called forms.xml, and normally it's nice to know that it was actually the right file that was exported. So I'll just do a show of that one file so I can see the date and time on it. The next thing is I need the command to execute the transformation, and it's this one down here. So I'll just take a copy of that thing. Then I will take I got that put in here twice, so I want to get rid of the second one here. I also want to look at my my output here, and then I will just do a pause so I can actually just see everything here before it exits, because it's important to see if you actually have errors during that process in here. So, but I created that execute.bat, and I go in here and say, okay, I want to call my execute.bat instead of calling the normal transformation file. I go into work with the same performance application in here, and this one, the whole transformation tool, rely on the object being in the database. So I actually going to import them into the database first in here. So let's import the latest version of the performance application. That was a 25 down here. And if I look at all those ones, they're in the 60,000 range. So when I export objects, since this one is a standalone application, I actually want to filter on that one. But I could also filter on the one being inside the base application. But I would just go in and filter for the objects within that range in here, since it's a standalone. But normally, when doing transformation, you have to do the complete application, because else you're losing code between subforms and main forms and things like that one. So, and I can go in and say, okay, if I need to do any lookups, I want to do it to my performance 25 version in here. So each company, or actually each database, can only have one transformation, where the Mergetool normally deals with all the code behind the scene, this one is one of the few tools that also relates on actually having the data in here. So, but I finished the setup, I imported all the data, and if I now go look at transformation down here, I'll see all the things coming from Microsoft in here actually is being imported. There's a lot more information in here, so I can see source code analysis and all kinds of things like that one in here. The menus has been changed, so it actually is more related to what needs to be done, and I can actually export and run the transformation on everything in here. So everybody else, the first thing I want to do is to get my forms, and I will just filter on this one in here. And let's go find the new ones that it added down here. Here's my new one. This one, the normal thing to do here is like I need to select the type for all of those one in here. This one has a fixed layout. I think actually this one. One of the things about this one is you can actually, from here, you can actually run the object. So I can see this one is like, okay, that's probably not going to work, but just leave that one for now. And I can keep on running all these ones to figure out what this one actually is in here. So this one is, that's just a list. That's a subform list. That's a card. List, and I guess that's a fixed layout again. There's a bunch of things in here that they won't compile because this one is a very strange application, or it's using the classic environment. So another subform list. That's a list. That one is it's a menu, but it basically is a card in here. That's a card. There was probably a worksheet. And that finished all my different ones. One thing that also is in here, when I actually have all these for an object, I can go in here, and when I need to look at promoted actions, for example, that is, for example, the action items, if I want to promote them and promote them big and add images, I can actually do lookup. And this one shows me the controls that exist, and that was based on that setup I did. With what version. It actually looks into the object line inside the Mergetool and just show the first ones for each control ID in here, including having a little nice function in there. So I could go down here and say, okay, on my start, I want to promote that one, I want to promote it big, and I could go in and set an image. And the images in here is something that is not in the standard tool either. But if I go into the latest version of the Mergetool, I'll see in here there's something called Bitmap in here. So I'll just extract that here. It creates a new folder up here called Bitmap, and this one is all the one for 2009, the bitmaps that came from Microsoft. I'll move it here to this folder up here. I'll copy. Oops, I need to take a copy of the file, of the folder name up here. And then I have a function down here to import from folder. And I can't paste, but I can actually right click here and paste that one and then hit enter. And now it imports all the ones, all the small bitmaps in there. And I think I have one called start. And that's probably a good action to the menu item called start out here. So I can do this one manually doing the lookups. Same for fixed IDs and anything else in here underneath the object. I can look up directly into the code that is imported in the Mergetool in here. It's not looking up to the object, it's looking up to the code inside the Mergetool. But when I'm ready, I've done all this one, I have a filter up here, and I can actually now go in and say, I want to export and run my transformation of these ones. And it will use the function to export the objects to XML. It will call my bat file. That's my execute.bat. It will show me the file, the date and the time on it. It will run the validation, and I guess something was right in here because the transformation completed. I have my pages.xml, and at the end it will import all the objects, and I can now go to look at the one here at the end. I'll see I now have pages in here, and I don't think all of it will compile because I had some illegal types in here properly, but I have used the transformation tool now to actually do all these pages, and it's fully integrated in here. There is a few extra tools inside the Mergetool, and that's mainly intended for ISVs to make their application consistent in here. Because you want to promote the same way for actions. You also want to promote fields the same way on cards and things like that. So I'll go in here, look under promoted actions, and say I want to create the data. It now looks into the object, find all menu items in here, and it goes in and actually put them into a list for me in here. And then I can go in and say, okay, update, for example, exists multiple times down here. I want to go ahead and promote that one, and I'm going to select an image in here, and let's find something that will say update or something like that one. Update unit cost. So there must be some icon that shows something like that. There's several things in here where you can actually hide by default and things like that one in here. So you will go through the list of bitmaps and you select the ones that you don't want to use, and then those ones are not selected all the time in here. But else, let's just go in and say, I don't really care what it is in here. But then and just say this refresh, that's the one. Now you have some flow fields up here calculating for that text update. Other places in the system I actually use to promote this one, so I can get that consistent. And I use this image on it. So that basically means you can go ahead and do all these things automatically. Yeah. Same thing about this start and stop. And let's just select that I want to do a big promoted on that one. Same for the stop. And I know there was a start one down here, so I'm going to pick that one. There's not a stop one, but let's just do, there was one up here with up in the top, something about this one, approve, for example. So that could be kind of a stop. So I just added these functions down here, and when I'm done with all this one, I can export my data in here, and it's get exported to a text file. And that text file then get imported into the transformation tool in here. So if I go look at my import down here, I can select that text file. The reason it's importing manually, like here where I have to go import it one file at a time and not just reading the data, is you can actually have the transformation tool in a totally different database and or company and maintain this one in a different place actually. But as I imported that one, I looked at my deadlock monitor down here. Before I had only one action. Now I have the other one, the start and approve down here, and this one get updated automatically. So you either use this one manually, or you use the tool in here for promoted action. Same thing as it can do promoted action, it can also do fields, and it's exactly the same process, where it calculates all the data and I can go in and say, okay, all these ones, I can see which tab it's on in card forms in here, and I can select how I want, what importance I actually want to do in here. And all these indicators, for example, I can actually go in and take them off the form and things like that one, and get rid of them in that way in here. So, but basically you can go in and let's say here, I'll do normally in the setup, you don't do any promotions, but let's just say I'll promote this one in here, I'll promote this one, and I don't need anything of the colors in here, and that will basically be it. But then it's the same function to export the data and actually get rid of that one. You have a few more functions in here. Delete field that exists in other versions. You don't want to promote Microsoft field. As an ISV, you want to promote your own field, or as a customer. So you can actually delete this one if you calculated it from another version. So I could go in and say, okay, anything that exists in this W1 version, I would delete those ones. And I didn't have anything. First of all, I didn't calculate it, but I didn't have anything either. The other thing, you can find the importance directly from the code. So if you already have done some of this, you can actually pull this out of the objects in here. You can also copy it from another version. And it means like I want to go in and say I have 25 now, performance 0.25. If I make 26, I'll calculate this one again. I'll copy from 25, and then I will deal with the few that are different in here. And there is a field out here, exist in earlier, that actually helps you figure out which one is a new one. So you don't have to look at everything every time, only the one that are new for this version. The last thing is I can actually copy images based on, or importance based on captions from another version. So I can go look at how Microsoft did it and basically copy their information into my version. So yeah. But this one again, if I'm done with this one, I'll export my data. Same as before. This one is field importance. Then I go to transformation, I import the field importance. And again, it go change the data inside the transformation for me. So if I find the deadlock monitor setup in here, I can see this one about new and new control properties. I can see these one being promoted in here for me in that way. So then I've done this one, and I can just go run the transformation one more time in here. That's my new pages. If I look at the setup in here, I'll see that this field in here should be promoted now. Importance is promoted on that field. And if I look at my deadlock monitor, I think that was this one down here. I look at my page actions, my start and stop, and I have my promoted, I have my image, and everything has been set during my transformation. So these tools, first of all, the integration to look up data inside the Mergetool, but also the tool to make consistent promotions is an important piece of the Mergetool also in here for upgrades from classic to Rotor environment. And again, it's running in 2009, but there's no way of getting around 2009 because it's the only version that supports those forms and pages. And as you saw, this one is in a native database. It has a big advantage, that is you don't have to compile and build C# code for anything. So you can work with it this way, and when you're done with the pages, you can put them into the Rotor or in a database where you actually have a Rotor client attached to it, instead of taking the extra time waiting every time to do something with it. the files, by the way, for the individual versions in here, I can actually go in here and I have a special import here to import my transformation XML file. So when I do this one, it uses the ability to save text files also inside the Mergetool. So if I look at the object now, I'll see down here at the end, I have some text file, and that's actually the one from the XML files in here. So if I import them, they have pre-configured numbers here, and I can actually go compare them and do other things between our versions also, including, because the transformation data is as much part of the code as the actual code you have written in the forms, because it's going to be used to build your row-tailored application network.